Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a good day and again that you're looking after yourselves and one another. I am again joined by Mr. Jim Bricker. How's it going, Jim?
Hey, I'm doing well. Happy to be here, Armando.
Happy that you're here. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a fantastic show. In light of the fact that Pat Metheny is releasing a new album July 21st called Moondial, we've decided to do our top 10 Pat Metheny albums. Now, if you know anything about Pat Metheny and the volume of content that he puts out, you will understand why we reduced it down to 10 per. Okay. Uh, you know, he has a lot of albums out, okay, in a
Does.
lot of configurations. Pat Metheny group, Pat Metheny solo. You know, it made it simpler to condense it down to 10. Now, Jim and I have taken great pains to select our 10 albums. We've done 10 albums each, or CDs, must keep up with the times, and we've done one honorable mention. Now,
Yes.
just a bit of background on Pat Metheny. Born Patrick Bruce Metheny on August 12th, 1954. I would, just in, the Cliff Notes version, I would categorize him as a guitar virtuoso, multi-instrumentalist, and he released his first album, Bright Size Life, in 1976 to ECM Records. And from then on, he's just been on a roll, where he's collaborated with such people as Jaco Pastorius, Joni Mitchell, as we said in the previous episode, amongst others. And given the fact that Jim is the expert on Pat Metheny, I'll let him talk more about that whenever expert in quotes, yes, of course. But we thought that it would be a good chance to talk some more Pat Metheny and just give you our top 10 album choices.
Yeah,
So
I mean the previous episode was a good sort of icebreaker to sort of get into a little bit more about Matheny writ large and kind of what makes him tick and what are some of the, you know,
yeah,
strengths and how he approaches things. And I'm happy to sort of dive a little deeper and say, okay, as far as my ears go, these would be, the top LPs to listen to. Your first stop if you're new to Matheny, it's like I'm going to recommend these 10 with an honorable mention. You've got another set of 10 and an honorable. Interesting also to see where they cross connect the Venn diagram of Jim and Armando, with what's in that centerpiece.
yeah, yeah, no, 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 definitely, definitely. And you know what? For maybe the few of you out there who don't know that much about Pat Metheny, this would be a good list for you to look into and maybe discover something new, right? I mean, as much I really don't know that much about Pat Metheny. I have some of his albums, I don't have them all because I don't want to go broke. And because he has a lot of albums. Just like we heard, and a little spoiler alert, we're doing a top 10 Frank Zappa album listing ranking, and he's got 62 albums. So Matheny is slightly up there, okay, in terms of albums. So, um, but again, I learned something new, and hopefully, you guys watching this will learn something new as well. So, without further ado, I will pass the virtual mic over to Jim so he can give us his number 10 in his
Do we want
list.
to do number 10 or do we want to start with the honorable mention? How do you want to do that?
I thought maybe we could do the honorable mention at the end, like after number one, right?
Fair enough. Let's do that. I'll try to make sure I do my list appropriately then. Okay.
Okay.
Starting at number 10 is the album Tap, which came out in 2013. It's 50 minutes, and it's a very rare record in that Pat is playing the compositions of one other individual for this album. Basically, it's Pat plays music from the John Zorn soundbook, and we're going to do a whole episode on Zorn down the road. At least we've kind of talked about it. The reason this is on this list is, for a number of reasons. One, it shows Pat's very, very broad palette.
Mhm.
It shows his interpretive skills while yet at the same time sort of maintaining his own voice. The thing about Zorn is that he has a very distinctive language and how he composes. There's a very deep um, roots of Jewish music into how he puts things together, and there's a lot of themes that kind of circulate throughout. So lots of circular patterns in how he composes. This album, Tap, is an amazing melding of the two, and it's one of these things where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Okay.
Pat plays everything except for except for drums on some tracks, and I think there's a track where his daughter does some like little vocal thing. But this is an amazing album that really straddles the line between melodically accessible and sort of eyebrow raising avant-garde. um, it's 6 tracks, and it's highly recommended, and certainly one of those things where if people kind of pigeonhole Pat into a smooth jazz ghetto,
Mhm.
I would put this in front of them and say, okay, explain this.
Okay.
That's my number 10.
Okay. And this is an album called Tap. Like I've never heard of it.
Yep, TAP. It was actually released on 2 record labels at the same time. None Such, which was Pat's label at the
Ooh,
time,
okay,
and
so
then
more, yeah.
Zadik, Tzadik, which is John Zorn's record label. So
Okay.
two
Okay.
labels pumped this out at the same time, 2 different covers, but it's the same content and it's fantastic.
Okay. I'm gonna look this up and there goes my bank account again. Oh my
There
God.
you go.
Okay. I'm gonna look this up. Thank you for that.
Sure.
It's a good choice. Okay. My number 10, ladies and gentlemen, is the debut release from Pat Metheny Group,
Mm,
released on EMC in March of 1978. And this features Malal Mays on keyboards and piano and other instruments. Okay. What I like about about the earlier stuff that he did through EMC, he, I gotta put this, Metheny does a lot of experimentation. And the compositions seem simplistic in their arrangements, but they're quite intricate when you dig deep into it. Starts off with, San Lorenzo, fantastic, fantastic, track with the, grand, in my notes, I have you a grand intro on the grand piano, great, uh, I'm sorry, great piano passages on this track. Has a really nice, relaxed feel, and that's what I like about what he does in terms of his arrangements on most of the earlier stuff. It's a very sort
mhm.
of subdued feel on this one. Other tracks of note on the album are Phase Dance, which is fantastic. Really upbeat melody, good rich guitar tone on this one. It's just, and again, guys, the reason why this is number 10, I mean, and I've said this before on other shows with other lists, just because an album is lower on the list does not mean that we love it any less. But when you do these lists, you gotta put them in some sort of a semblance, right? So,
Sure. Not quite
um,
like ranking your children, but close.
well, some days, you know, you never know. I mean, I've got 9 nieces and nephews, so yeah, I mean, some days. Okay. Let's see here. According to my notes here, I've got expansive notes, but I'm not going to go that far into it. Um, Other songs of note on the album is April Wind. Beautiful gentle guitar on that track. April Joy picks up from where in my notes I have you picks up from where April Wind left off. That's sort of the same arrangement. Just a really beautiful, breezy album. That's what again, what I like about his earlier stuff through ECM. A lot of it is very sort of, how can I put this? Breezy is the only way I can.
It's open. It's got an air
Yeah,
to it,
there's
doesn't
a
it?
lot of space to it, a lot of breath,
Yeah.
a lot of
Yes.
space, a lot of sparse arrangements. Okay, but again, when
Yeah.
you delve deep into and into the tracks, it's quite intricate. I mean, he does
Yeah.
different time
Right.
signatures at different times throughout the tracks. I even have the listings as to when, the track changes tempo at 327 or whatever track it is, right?
You did get intricate.
That's how deep I get into it, guys. But that's my number 10. Pat Metheny Group.
Great choice. It's a fantastic record. Back when the group was only four people, and
Yeah,
at times the group has expanded to like eight, I think, but
yeah,
still, like the raw material of everything is still there. It's still present, and um, although the sound palette kind of expands when you have eight people, again, the core of what makes PMG work is still there in that very, very first album. So yeah, excellent choice, Armando.
yeah. And just quickly, I mean, what Matheny does too, not like Frank Zappa and Miles Davis, what he does is, okay, he'll give you, okay, this is the song I've written, this is the arrangement, but he'll also let you put your own stamp on it,
Yes.
as long as as long as it complements the overall structure of the composition, he'll keep it in, right?
Hmm.
And that's what I like
Yeah.
about it. That's why I like
Yeah. In
about what
fact,
he does.
Pat's kind of on record as saying that in the group, he kind of saw it as a benevolent dictatorship.
Yeah.
And those were his words, where he kind of had an openness to really be available for things, but they still had to fit his overall vision for where he wanted the tune to go. And
Hmm.
and so he would just make sure that what people were contributing still sort of kept within that realm.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And again, what I like about what he does is he's not afraid to go off in different areas, different directions, to experiment, right?
Yep.
Again, as long as it complements what he's trying to do and get the message out in the composition that he wrote, he's okay with it. He's okay to go with
Yeah.
it. So, anyways, we must carry on, ladies and gentlemen. Otherwise, we're gonna be
We
here
we
until
must.
tomorrow. Um, back over to Jim for your number nine.
My number nine, speaking of experimentation,
Go on.
I'm going to go about 180 degrees from your Pat Metheny group album, and I'm going to go to the PMG album from 1997, which is Imaginary Day. Um, Basically, the byline here is Pat Metheny goes Prague. This is the group expanding its sonic palette wider than they ever had before. World music in Celtic, Mid-Eastern, industrial beats. Pat breaks out his 42 string guitar for a solo piece in one.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
he's already breaking boundaries on a lot of his album, but this one just really ups the ante. And if there's a particular song that you don't like, just wait for the next one because the color of this entire album shifts over its nine tracks. For something as you got the whole middle core of the album to me is just amazing because you've got this very mid-eastern feel piece which goes in this very tranquil, loose, floaty ballad into this piece that sounds like Nine Inch Nails, and it ends with this heavy orchestral um, coda that's just amazing. So yeah, Imaginary Day. I like this album so much. I took the opportunity to see the tour five times when it hit the Bay Area.
Oh,
So
sweet Jesus. Okay.
this album is deep into my DNA.
Sounds it. Jesus Christ. Not five times?
Five times.
Okay. All right. I mean, I'm a major fan of Queen. I've only seen them three. I mean, like, hello. I'm so, um, yeah, I mean, you trumped me on that one. And I don't mean to mention Trump. We're not going to go there.
Don't- You're just biding time, aren't you?
There you go. There you go. There you
Hey, see
go.
what I did there?
There you go. There you go. Political jokes aside, ladies and gentlemen, but he is orange. Let's not go. Okay. Let's, okay.
Moving on. What's your
Moving
what's
on.
your number nine, Armando?
Exactly. Thank you for keeping me in check there, Jim. My number nine is First Circle from
Ooh,
1984. I checked this album out when you recommended it, when you mentioned it the last time. Like, oh, what to say? Except this, the lead off track, Forward March.
yep,
Fantastic, track, purposely done out of tune, right?
yep,
I'm listening to this track, and in my notes I have your solid bass drum as foundation for the track. Instruments seem out of tune. I didn't realize it was done on purpose.
Right.
After reading after reading further up on it. Um, but it is just a solid piece of writing. Other songs are Yolanda, You Learn, steady driving drum pattern on the track, good piano, good steady build on drums, nice use of synclavier, nice melody. The title track, very rhythmic, fantastic acoustic guitar and piano combination. What I like about his compositions throughout is, and this album is no different. It's like there's like a sense of innocence and hope,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
throughout his arrangements. Multiple movements on this track, just, beautiful, delicate piano. Um, I don't want to go into everything I wrote because there's only an hour show, basically, almost. Um, this one track that I was just talking about, it's almost cinematic in the way it's done, right? And other songs
Yes.
of note are If I Could, beautiful soft synth passages, gentle guitar, uh, you know, passage on this, almost like it's like a palate cleanser from what you hear
Hmm.
before on the album. Uh,
Yeah.
Tell It All is another good track. I'm probably going through the whole entire album, So yeah, that's my number nine. End of the Game is another beautiful. In my notes, I have nice sultry synth, good mid tempo, great synclavier solo. Um, just a fantastic album, right?
Yep.
But again, these lists you have to put them somewhere. So that is my number nine.
Yeah, that's a really good one, Armando. Just two other comments I'll make on that. Going back to the out of tune.
Yes.
The first one, which is sort of I think I described it in the last podcast as like, Pat's version of a middle high, you know, junior high school marching band where
Yeah. Yeah.
everyone's out of tune.
Yeah.
The first time I saw PMG, they opened with that, which with basically Pat on the stage playing the synclavier, and then the other four members marching down the aisles of the theater, one guy on bass drum, another guy on the little glockenspiel, someone on trumpet, and they all came up on the stage, and you know they ended, threw everything down, and then launched into phase dance. It was just one of the most fantastic concert openings I've ever seen, and that's seeing Forward March really made me appreciate it that much more.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the other tune on First Circle that I want to note is Masaya, which is the ballad on side two, which is
Yeah.
just a beautiful. I mean, it's a full-on song. It's sung in Brazilian Portuguese by Pedro Anzar, so I don't understand a word of it.
Yeah.
But Anzar's vocal melody and his intonation expression is just beautiful.
Yeah.
Fantastic track.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. Again, you're helping me discover albums that I had no idea, obviously, that they existed, and I appreciate that. No,
Sure.
I mean, and other songs of note too are, Praise, on the album. Just it's a gorgeous album, you know.
Great. Yeah.
So yeah. But again, that is my number nine, and
I look forward to hearing what's coming after that. So shall we go to number eight?
stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we will go to number eight.
Okay, number eight for me is A Map of the World, which came out in '99. It's basically what I call one of my chill LPs. Um, Pat, it's the soundtrack to a movie of the same name,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
there's definitely pieces from the film that made it onto the album. But Pat takes some of those core melodies and melodic ideas and uses them as jumping points. So basically, if composed 20 minutes for the film, what you have is an album that's like three times that length, where
Yeah,
he's taking the themes, extrapolating on them, restating them, doing subtly different arrangements to eke every little emotional
yeah,
core that's possible out of it.
yeah. He's ringing
Mostly,
out
and
he's
yeah,
ringing out every note possible that he can and reinterpreting it. I got it.
Yep, mostly an acoustic guitar and orchestral album. Um, Again, highly recommended. It's a different side of Pat. Well, it's rare that he kind of explores that mode for an entire LP. So that's what's different about it, is that it takes that one thing that he's so good at, that playing very deeply, and
Mhm.
has it for a full album. I love it. It's wonderful. I don't think many people know about it because it was a soundtrack and
Yeah.
not considered kind of core, but hokey smoke, it's just wonderful.
Yep, yeah. I'm learning new stuff. I'm telling you. Um, no, no, seriously. I mean, it's good. It's good. I think between us, we're covering a good a good range of the catalog, right? So
Yeah.
my number eight, ladies and gentlemen, is American Garage,
Ah, yes.
released to ECM in November of 1979. Holy shit. That's an amazing album.
Yeah.
What I like about his stuff too, to me, I tend to put musical passages along with visual images sometimes. It's like, so I can be listening to a song and I could imagine myself like driving in a car somewhere, right? Like on an open road or across a desert or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, or like
Oh, sure.
on a stretch of highway. And when I hear like, when I hear this album, like it starts off with Cross the Heartland,
Hmm.
that's exactly what I think about,
Yep.
and I have here, in my notes, I have here sparkling synth on the opening track, great bass line, great point and counterpoint. He does a lot of point and counterpoint with his
Right.
arrangements and stuff. He does also melodies within melodies. You know what I mean? Like kind of like a counter statement
Mhm.
to the melody that he's performing, and it's fantastic. Other songs of note on the album are Airstream, which he says, from what I read, is his favorite track on the album.
Yep. I think I've read that too. Yeah.
Yeah, he felt that they nailed it on that track, right? And Airstream to me, great piano passages, relaxed feel, great melody. The Search is another good one. Nice guitar passages, a very relaxed feel, nice sprawling piano on that track. Uplifting feel on all the album, really. The title track, great energy and rhythm, nice build in spots. The one track that he does not like, that he thinks that he felt that the band got it wrong,
Hmm.
was the Epic.
Is the epic. Yeah.
He says that track is all over the place. It doesn't, there's no cohesion to it, right? And
Yep.
I'm thinking like, okay, well, you wrote it, but you obviously can critique it, but I like it.
Yeah.
Grand intro, some nice melody, different time signatures. Again, I love Lamez's piano work. Just
Yeah.
great sprawling piano passages, right? Like he's running all over the keyboard, right? It's just great, fantastic,
Right.
great tempo, and change in tempos at times, and fantastic bass. So that's my number eight, American Garage.
Good call. Great record. Like that one a lot. Yeah. Very good. Seven.
You're number seven.
I'm on number seven. And again, this is one of those things where on a different day, it might have ended up higher. My number seven is Still Life Talking from 1987. Um,
You're
in
killing
this,
me.
I understand. I know where you're going with this one. Um,
Okay.
Pat Metheny goes full Brazilian on this one, and I
Yeah.
think we talked about it in the last recording where I said that this would be my recommended starting point for someone who's new to Pat Metheny group. To me, the leadoff track, Minuano, perfectly encapsulates the PMG sound. You've got this real depth of melody, expansive arrangements. You've got creative and surprising instrumentation, the soaring vocal lines that basically, act as, instruments. Um, and the whole album is just wonderful. It's the one that has the hit single of Last Train Home.
Yeah.
And yeah, the entire thing is wonderful. It's 43 minutes that feels like it goes by in a blink. Um,
Yeah.
would I rate this higher if I did the list again? I don't know because my next six are pretty solid. So we'll see. But yeah, uh, number seven with a bullet, still life talking.
Well, if that's number seven, I can't imagine what would be the next six coming up, you know. But
Hang on.
well, no, I mean, we said in the last episode, this was my gateway into Pat Metheny, so
Right.
it held a special place for me. And but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. My
We'll
number
get to that.
seven, yeah, my number seven, ladies and gentlemen, is Off Ramp. Again, released to ECM, released May of '82. Again, what I like about his recordings early on, like in this, when he started out, like in '76 and up to around '82, a lot of sparse arrangements and a lot of just fantastic synth work. It just sort of I call it sultry synth
Yeah.
passages that they do.
Uh-huh. Right.
Starts off, I think I say this right, Bar Carol.
I think so.
Yeah, nice chugging rhythm on it. Next track, Are You Going With Me? Great, good mid-tempo rhythm on this track. Very ethereal. That's the word, ethereal synths, right? That allow me to use it. Um, nice soaring in quotes harmonica effect on that track.
Yeah.
Other songs of note are Olé, you know.
Yeah.
In my notes, I have nice marching drum fills, great soft piano chords, and delicate guitar passages. Uh,
Hmm.
18 is another fantastic track, great melody on that track. Off Ramp, title track, right? In my notes, I have your frenetic intro in brackets, often running, like just gone, right? Like when they go, they go. It's just,
Yeah.
and they ain't no coming back. Um, the track has a fast energy pace up until like 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Uh, but it pretty much never lets up, right?
Right.
On the track. And then there's James, which you mentioned before in the last episode, you know,
Yeah.
uh, fantastic rhythm, good balance. It's a good balance to the previous track. Great guitar tone, beautiful piano solo. And it ends with the Bat Part 2, which was a reworking of another track. Nice slow synth passages. Uh, there's a great gentle use of cymbals on it, and just again, in my notes here, I have dreamy textured synth passages.
Hmm.
I mean, but that's what he did. I mean, everything to me in his earlier recordings has a very, and not that he's really changed all that much, but he
Right.
had a very sort of relaxed feel to it, like a very laid back uh, sort of attitude towards the music that they put together and that they put on the album.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah,
fantastic.
this PMG album is pretty special for a couple of reasons. One, it's the album that introduces Pat's synclavier guitar, so that makes its first appearance here, and it's on tune one, where just out of the gate you're just hearing this weird sound. It sounds like a trumpet, but it's not, and yet it sounds like a guitar, and it's not. It's the
Mhm.
synclavier. I also think the synclavier features heavily on the Bat Part 2, where there's pieces that sound like, orchestral synth patches. I'm pretty sure that some of that is the synclavier, but I just don't know which lines are, say, Lyle's versus what's Pat's on the guitar. Um, the other note about Off Ramp is that it's the first Pat Metheny group appearance of vocalist and percussionist Nana Vasconcelos, who is
Yeah.
brilliant. And I think this is the album where the Brazilian influence on Pat, begins to really sprout and blossom. Um,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
takes on, yeah, I talked about it in Still Life Talking, and
Yeah.
it grows on other records too. But yeah, Off Ramp, you get no arguments from me, Armando. You're batting solid, brother.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate that. Appreciate that. And your check is on the way, right?
Thank you.
We worked on an arrangement, guys. You
We
know,
have. I hope it's U.S. funds.
I'll say, yeah, of course it will be, of course.
Okay, thank you.
But I send you what? I'm not going to send you chickens as payment. You know what I mean? I'll
Well, no,
send you.
but you may send me that funny Canadian money, and I can't do anything with that.
I'll take care of you. You'll be looked after. Don't worry about it. Okay. Um. Okay. No numbers. Did you give you number six? Did we get
I
lost?
didn't.
Okay. Off to
Let's
number
go with number
six.
six, which is the other record that Pat released in 1997. This came out a good um, what about 8 months before Imaginary Day, and this is the duet album he did with Charlie Hayden called Beyond the Missouri Sky.
Okay.
Um, Charlie Hayden is listed as the leader on it, but you might as well just have Charlie and Pat have co-billing on it. It's as much a Pat record as it is a Charlie Hayden record. It's a gorgeous duet album. The whole thing just drips of the feeling of Midwestern America through originals of Charlie, originals from Pat, some choice cover tunes like "The Moon is a Harsh Mistress," um, "The
Hmm.
Precious Jewel," um, the theme to Cinema Paradiso. I mean, the album again, like you said earlier, it has there's a cinematic quality to some of it,
Yeah.
and this is if there's someone who's interested in music but doesn't really know about jazz, um, and you don't really know what their musical bent is, this is a really safe recommendation for
Okay.
someone. In fact, Pat kind of says that, so he and Charlie talked about it a lot, and they say, they may not have any other recordings from our catalog in their collection, but they definitely have Beyond the Missouri Sky. It's you just can't argue with the beauty and the quality of it. Um, Highly recommended. Much like Map of the World, it's a very chill album. There are parts of it where Pat does some arrangements where he'll have, like, acoustic or electric guitars holding down the rhythm with Charlie on the bass,
Yeah.
and Pat's taking an electric guitar lead over it. But at its core, it's a duet record,
Hmm.
and a solid number six. On some days it would be, number one, depending on my mood. Like a lot of these, they just can vacillate up and down. But
Yeah.
Beyond the Missouri Sky is a no fail record.
Perfect. That's a good one. That's a good one. My number six, ladies and gentlemen, is A Letter from Home.
Okay.
Released through Geffen. At this point, he was signed at Geffen. This came out after Still Life Talking, released June 29th, 1989. This continues Pat Metheny's foray into, I'd say, Latin jazz, world music. Fantastic album. Songs of note are Have You Heard, upbeat, up-tempo driving rhythm. I have in my notes here, a great percussion fills. There's a sense of playfulness,
Hmm.
right? And in the arrangements here. And basically for this track, you're somewhat on like on a roller coaster ride. You know what I mean? Like you don't know where you're gonna end up. You know,
Yeah.
again, these are all my opinions. I mean, and when you listen to it, you might think of something else, guys. So but again, this is my take on it. And again, fantastic, guitar solo. The track does build in intensity towards the conclusion. Other songs of note are, Every Summer Night, simple arrangement, a sense of innocence on this track. Just great, nice, sultry synths, nice sprawling piano, uh, better days ahead, nice pulsating rhythm on this track.
Yeah.
There's an exotic feel to it, right?
Sure.
And there's a joyful spirit on the track, right? Spring Ain't Here is another good one. Uh, Bloody hell, great percussion. Guitar has a relaxed feel to it, nice simple melody. Uh, the next track, 45/8. I don't know 45 by 8, I guess you call it. Um,
Maybe that's the time signature.
yeah, 45 8. Yeah, sorry. Stupid me. Stupid me, guys. I'm not a musician, so and my notes I have for this track. Fast-paced guitar with bass, just a fun track, right?
Yeah,
I'm not,
that's the short one, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
it's like a minute and 20 seconds or something.
yeah.
It's like before you know it, you don't even have time to like burp and it's done. It's
Yes,
just it's gone, you
it's
know.
this great pulsing interlude, and yeah,
Yeah,
it's lovely.
yeah. Yeah, that's my number six. I mean, it's just a fantastic album. And I would say you after say because I think I did say that Still Life Talking would be a good gateway to start Get Letter from Home,
Mhm.
and followed by um, a Secret Story because they all sort of have the same. They're all like chapters of the same book.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's me. Any
Point. I like. I don't know what it was with Letter from Home. There are pieces of it that really connect for me, and there are some that kind of leave me cold. Better Days Ahead, Spring Ain't Here, the title track. I absolutely, love those.
Mhm.
I need to give it another listen or three. It's been a long time.
Yeah. And that's it too. I mean, sometimes you fall out of favor with certain albums, and then you go back and listen to it. For whatever reason, it doesn't connect with you at first, and then when you go back and listen to it, you're like, oh, like this is really good. Why didn't I connect with it the first or second time?
What was wrong with me? Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's not even about being wrong. It's just
Yeah.
I know what you're saying, but I mean, it's just certain this is how I put it with music. Music will hit you or connect with you when it's supposed to connect with you, if it does, if it ever does. Right? There's
Yep.
no timeline as to when it's going to connect with you. So,
Well
eh,
said.
yeah, I do have my moments of lucidity and intelligence, So
I'm glad I was here for it.
there you go. You've got to see something, that even Bill hasn't seen. So
Dang.
boom. Stay for the 9 o'clock show, guys. It gets a little blue. Okay. So
Oh, okay.
we're just warming up. I'm joking. You're number five.
My number five. This is one of the two releases from the trio of Pat, Christian McBride, and Antonio Sanchez. This is the EP, and I use that in quotes because it's a 40-minute EP. So in the old days, this would have been considered a full album. This is called Tokyo Day Trip, which was recorded, I think, in 2003, not released till 2008. Done live at the Blue Note in Tokyo. Um, this is one of my contenders for maybe the most diverse Pat Metheny release in and of itself. Um, it's five pieces. The Again, all live. The first one sounds like it could have come straight from a Sigur Rós album. The second is like a high tempo um, bop shred fest, which is just fantastic, just driven by McBride and Sanchez and
Mhm.
Pat just playing all over the place. Then comes a very lovely up tempo, hopeful ballad. Then comes something that comes pretty close to thrash metal. Um,
Really?
and yeah, I think the title is Back Arm and Black Page. I may be off on what the title is, but I didn't make notes of it. Um, but yeah, it's a thrasher, and then the album ends, the EP, excuse me, ends with a ballad of just a totally different timbre, which is like a lot more introspective and downbeat. Um, fantastic, fantastic, amazing uh, document. I did get to see this trio three times, and it's sort of a wonderful memory
Mhm.
um, of what they can do. The studio album that they did, which is just called Day Trip, it's also great, but there's just something about the live feeling that really just sort of kicks it up a notch. don't know what it is. Just the interaction with the audience, the presence of folks in the room, just sort of make things come alive a bit more. So,
Mhm.
um, Tokyo Day Trip is my number five.
One second, I'm taking a sip, guys. When I go out of frame for a second, I'm taking a sip of tea. I'm not going to fall out of the chair. Don't worry about it. So I'm just taking a sip of tea. I'll do that in a sec. No, it's a good choice. I've seen the album on Amazon. I have not. Uh, I thought about buying it, but maybe I should. Yeah, so much for my bank account, guys.
I'm here to drain all the money from your coffers, Armando. That's you've discovered my secret mission.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Everyone's after something, guys. No. No, that's a good choice. That's a good choice. My number five, ladies and gentlemen, is Dreambox, released April 16th, 2023 through Modern Recordings. I didn't know about this album until the day it came out. And when I heard about it, I jumped on Amazon and I got it by the next day. This album, even from the cover um, image that you have there that they put out, I'll just start by saying it's the kind of album where, like here in Edmonton, it was like a really cold, dreary day, raining, and it was so cold that the furnace kicked in today, right? And this is May, right?
Yeah.
It's the history of this album is that he was on tour, I believe in 21, 22 for the previous album from this place, and he started to just record little bits and pieces of melodies and chord progressions. And he sat down with all these tapes and he put together this album of these tracks. Just amazing. And it's got the feeling of an, as I call it, an autumn album, like a very fall type of album,
Mm.
where you can
Hmm.
sit back, you've got the fire going, you've got the stereo on, and the light in the room is the light coming off those stereo components and the fire
Hmm.
in the fireplace. And you're just sitting
Yeah.
back with the tea because I don't drink alcohol, but you can sit back with a coffee or whatever and just enjoy what you're listening to. Just close your eyes and you're off and running. You know what I mean? And songs of note, and I'm not going to go into the entire listing of the tracks, but songs of note are, you know, The Waves Are Not the Ocean, From the Mountains, fantastic track. Uh, and I hope I say this right. Ole and Guard. I hope I say that right. Um, just overall, Trust Your Angels is another good track.
Hmm.
Um, and again, PC in Belgium is another good one. But to me, it's an album where he's saying, how can I put this? He's not trying to make any grand statement with a huge band, you know. He's just trying to say that this is where I am in my life right now musically. This is what I want to write. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Pat calls this his quiet electric guitar album. And
very
so
much so.
so very much like Map of the World and Beyond the Missouri Sky have a very chill vibe. Dreambox is the same way, but because of the electric guitars, and there's some acoustic underneath there too, it's it again, it's got a totally different timbre than those other, chill albums. But yeah, was a great discovery. That was so my question, Armando, is how did you discover it?
Um, Honestly, I came across it on Google. I was looking up another
Okay.
album, and when you start typing something, guys, in the search engine, it'll come up, Pat Metheny new album or whatever group it is. And I'm like,
Hmm.
my eyes like, bugged out of my head, like, new album? Okay, I gotta check this out. And I just went into it. And just from reading what I read on Wikipedia, because there was a little blurb, I thought I don't give a shit. It's Pat Metheny. I'm gonna get it. And within 24 hours, it was in my fat little fingers, and I was listening to it. And
Nice.
there is an album review of of Dreambox on the playlist. So if you want to go check it out, go check it out. And for those of you who have seen it, and thank you for your viewage on that video. But yeah, no, I think that it's a very quiet, simplistic album. And when I say simplistic, I'm not meaning it in a disrespectful manner.
Uh,
I think that he was at a point where he's saying, you know what, um, this is where I am in my life right now. Come along for the ride if you want. Hopefully, you won't be disappointed. But
yeah,
this,
and Pat is like that with his discography. Like, when we talked last time about the orchestrion and his big one-man band thing with all the, solenoids and the triggers and the loops and all that. And he followed that album up with another very quiet acoustic guitar album called, What's It All About?
Mhm.
So, he definitely follows his muse. And no matter what that muse happens to be, it still sounds like Pat. There's
Yeah,
a Patness
yeah,
to it.
there is
Um,
definitely a patness to it.
yes.
No, no, no.
Your description of it as a kind of an autumnal album, I think, is spot on, Armando. Yeah. Dreambox does have that feel to it.
I, for example, like, spoiler alert, I would put this album on alongside. If any of you know Just Tall out there, I would put this album on alongside Songs from the Wood from '77. That album from Jethro Tull is a very sort of fall autumn type of album, you know.
Hmm.
But with Jethro Tull, you're going back into back in the old days, like Robin Hood and all that kind of, like,
Yes.
old England, jolly old England, that kind of thing, like Maid Marian and all that kind of stuff. With this one is quite very contemporary. So please check it
Yeah.
out. Please, you will not
Uh,
be disappointed.
Agreed. I absolutely agree with that.
There you go.
Number four.
Number four.
Number four. My number four is First Circle from 1984, which looks like it was your number nine, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Our first overlap. There you go.
our first overlap. Again, this also might be a contender for the most diverse Pat album, and we kind of you talked about that here. We talked about it. I talked about it on the previous recording. And I'll just reiterate what I said before in that other recording. My absolute favorite track of all time, regardless of genre or artist, is the title track, "The First Circle." Um, it's rhythmic complexity, the long main melody statement, the amazing vocal intertwining at the end, Lyle's drop dead gorgeous piano solo, the koto drums that break in out of nowhere. I mean, uh I debate between when I have a funeral, which Pat song I want played at it, and it's either that one or another one. And I'll talk about the other one.
Okay. Okay. No,
That's my number four, first circle.
that's a good one. That's a good one. Again, that's our first overlap in terms of the
Hmm.
list.
What does that mean?
See, we'll see.
Yes.
My number four, ladies and gentlemen, and this is an intricate album to discuss, is The Way Up. Released January 25th of '05 through Nonesuch, distributed through Warner Brothers, Warner Music, sorry. This album consists of one track divided into four sections. You have opening, part one, part two, part three. Very intricate, very beautiful, very layered. To go through the notes, you'd need a roadmap, literally. I'm looking through my notes here, and I have a life to live. Jim has a life to live. I'm not going to go through the entire thing, but basically, this to me was a beautiful experiment or an experiment that ended up, how can I put this? It was an experiment that was a triumphant success in that
Yep.
you have one track divided into four parts. You have intricate time signature changes on the percussions and synths and piano and all, like, the opening, which starts off the album, which is quite fitting. To me, it sounds like the start of a day, right? To me, this entire album is like one person's experience from from sun up to sundown.
Hmm.
Much like I've said before with Secret Story. Every track on the album is a different story, different chapter of the same book.
Hmm.
This album condenses that into one bloody day from daybreak to sunset. Okay. And you're still left thinking, what the hell did I listen to? Because it is so diverse and it is
It's
so
dense.
and it's dense, it's maddening in some spots, very intricate arrangements. There's even use of timpani at some point in the compositions. Just amazing. Just amazing. It clocks in at 68 minutes and change. If you, out of your busy day, and I know everyone's busy out there, we all are, but if you, at one point during your busy day, can at least put this album on, either by YouTube, you can stream it on YouTube, or you have it, if you want to get it, just have it on in the background while you're doing your stuff around the house or in your car or wherever. This is a
Hmm.
perfect car driving, road trip record. Put this on, you're off and running. I'm serious.
Yep.
I haven't even begun to scratch the surface of this album, right? And the fact that it's number 4 on my list says something. Okay. This was going to be, I thought, my number 10 because I really wasn't familiar with it, but bloody
Hmm.
hell, this is
Yeah.
amazing.
That's a great way to describe it. And if I may, the way up is my number three. So that's, so I'm right with you there. To me, it's it's a perfect LP. The only reason it's four different tracks on the album is because Pat and Lyle decided they just wanted to provide a convenient place for people to navigate in the songs, but to their
Index,
minds,
index.
it is a one, it's a single piece of music. It's got a jazz palette, but they're using a lot of classical themes and motifs while playing jazz or you know avant-garde rock or trip hop or just Brazilian things. The harmonica is a featured instrument on this album. Gregoire Marais is the player, and he's just phenomenal. Um, yeah, I mean, it took me times to listen to this album to really get it, because that's when I was able to kind of understand, oh my gosh, there's these repeated themes that are subtly different throughout the recording. Um, and it was one of those things, like you were saying, Armando, it's a thing to put on in the background, and I had it on in the background. And when I finally was able to be attentive to it, that's when I got it. Just how inter interconnected everything was in this recording,
Hmm.
much like a classical form piece of music. And once I did get it, my passion and appreciation for this thing increased tenfold.
Hmm.
Um, it's a phenomenal, just absolutely stunning piece of music. Very much a combination of the strengths of Pat and Lyle together. This is the final Pat Metheny group record, 2005.
Was it
Yeah,
to
and
feature La Maze?
yes,
Yes. Yeah, I think I
yeah,
read that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I said a perfect album, and I mean that. There's only two Pat albums to me that are perfect, and this is one of them, because every album except two to me have some sort of track where it's like, me, okay, you
Yeah.
know, it prevents it from being like an A plus all the way through.
Uh-huh.
But this one is just, oh,
Oh yeah. No,
number three, baby, love it.
I agree. I agree. I was looking to uh buy this album. Like I was looking on Amazon to see if I could get it, but you can't get it directly through Amazon. You have to get it through a secondary seller, and they will try and rob you blind, you know.
Well, speaking of secondary sellers, I do want to mention this about The Way Up. There is a live DVD that they did. They recorded it in it's South Korea, I think.
Yeah, they
It
did.
is it is well worth finding on eBay or the equivalent. It's a phenomenal thing. I think one of the things that we didn't really talk about is just the diversity of the music within itself on The Way Up.
Mhm.
Within the first, like 7 minutes of the recording, um, and it's the same way live. And I confirm this because I saw it live as well. Um,
Of course you did.
he's well, I'm a fanatic.
Oh, I
Um,
know.
I
Yeah,
think I think he went through five different guitars in the first 7 minutes, just because the composition demanded it. The
the kind
palette, he
yeah,
was
the
so
different
deep
musical
and so
palette.
rich.
Yeah.
He just needed to kind of go there. And it's yeah,
I
it's
I think what you're referring to, I call it musical colors. The different colors of the composition demanded or warranted changing guitars, different tones, different
yeah,
pick different setting.
right.
Yeah, yeah. No, this
And again,
album.
like we talked about before, it's not. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, no, no. I cut you off. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that Pat doesn't do this in the service of showing off. It's in the service of moving the composition forward, of
Yeah,
adding the appropriate color and depth to the piece to move it from one stage to the next.
yeah. No, no, no. Definitely, definitely. I agree with you. And guys, there was a bit of a glitch there. It's apparently my internet connection is not stable. I don't know why we're paying all this money for for high speed 5G network when it's not working. Sons of bitches. Anyways, that's just my thing. But no, guys, if you want to literally get the way up, like really, you will not be disappointed. Um, and that's a
Yep.
good, yeah, I'm surprised I'm surprised it wasn't your number one, like
Well, we'll
there you
get
go.
there.
There you go. My number three, ladies and gentlemen, and this title always gets me tongue-tied. My number three is As Falls Wichita, So Falls Wichita Falls. Another ECM release, released April 27th, 1981. The sprawling side length title track, uh, I think it clocks in at something like 23 minutes and change, like it's just 20 minutes at least. Yes, just beautiful work on that track. Other songs of note are Ozark, fantastic, great piano runs on that. That track has really like an exuberant energy on that track, right? Like just beautiful. September 15th
Yeah.
is another good track with sprawling grand piano. It's for You, great acoustic guitar intro on that track. And I hope I say this right. Estupenda Grasa. Uh,
Hmm.
Another great album closer. That's what I like about his albums on the whole. He has tracks, compositions that are fantastic album closers.
Hmm.
Every
Yeah.
album with him is a statement, a beginning, a middle, and an ending, and the endings are just fantastic. Uh,
Right.
uh, and for that track, I have, great album closer, beautiful descending piano chords on that track, just amazing, right?
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
that's my number three. So
And that's also my number two.
good
Asphalt
Lord.
Wichita is my number two. Another perfect LP. Um, um, I'm trying to think of what else to add to it beyond what you did. September 15th, Rick Beato has a wonderful video just really breaking down that song. Suggest you seek it out. He calls it one of the most beautiful songs he's ever heard. Um, the Estupenda Graca or Grasa, however you pronounce it. That's
Grasa.
actually a reworking of Amazing Grace.
Okay, I get it. Yeah, it makes
Yeah,
sense.
the vocal line kind of carries that melody. Again, Nana Vasconcelos is on it, so it's Pat, Lyle, and Nana are the trio on this record, and yeah, it's a phenomenal record. Ozark, September 15th, It's For You, Estupenda is fantastic side two, and yeah, side one. The only other comment I'll make is that when they used to play this live as the PMG before they recorded it, and at the time where they were playing it live, they were calling it Apocalypse Tomorrow.
Yeah, I was reading about that. About that. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, glad to see
Fantastic.
that get such a high mark on your list, Armando. Good call, man. Good call.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you approve. I'm glad you approve.
You may continue.
Thank you. Thank you. We must continue, ladies and gentlemen. No, when we decided to do this, I wanted to delve into the catalog. And I mean, I bought, for example, a few years back, I did buy uh Bright Size Life, and I did buy Off Ramp. And just to sort of get myself more familiar with this catalog. And when we decided to do this, I wanted to go through the catalog to the back and then come forward a bit. But because I knew what my number one and two were going to be, but the rest were going to be a mystery to me. And yeah, no, I think that Wichita, I think it's a fantastic album overall. Like as a as a
Yeah,
sidelong track, hello. Hello. I mean, it's sublime, you know. Um,
absolutely.
but we must carry on, ladies and gentlemen.
Number two.
My number two is Still Life Talking, released July 7th, 1987 through Geffen Records, or no, none such. Sorry. At this point, you switched and
Oh, it was Geffen.
it was Geffen.
The original release was Geffen. Yeah,
Okay,
this
because I
was
have the none such reissue. Okay.
yeah.
There we go. There we go. Little correction there. Well, we got it going, guys. Fantastic album. The first track I heard was the so-called, the minor hit, Last Train Home. I was 17 years old. I never really heard of Pat Metheny. I've heard of the name because he did the collaboration with David Bowie. This Is Not America for the Falcon and the Snowman soundtrack with Loud Mays. I could not put a face to the name. And then when I saw the video, all I saw was his hair. I'm like, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
He's got a head of hair, that Pat.
yeah, Albert Einstein, here we go. That kind of big, mane that he's got.
Yeah.
And then, but when I heard this track, um, for me, I was going through a bit of a rough patch. Um, just getting through high school and stuff and not really fitting in, etc. And when I heard this track, the entire track blew me away.
Yeah.
The use of brushes on the drums, like for the rhythm, and it's like going double time, and it has that chugging feeling of a train,
It does.
that motion, right? And then you hear him doing the guitar and the keyboards that come in, and then the vocal phrasings, the dual vocal phrasing that come in, just amazing. When I heard this track, I literally would sit there and just tear up, and tears would roll down my face. I could not believe how beautiful this was,
Yeah.
right? And then when I bought it, like in the 2000s, I forgot about it, but then I went back to it. And when I bought it, I only concentrated stupidly on Last Train Home. I didn't think about Minuano 6/8, like 7 tracks, fantastic. When you listen to this album, guys, you're off and running. You're on a vacation wherever. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
um, when I listen to this album, I'm on a cruise ship on the Lido deck at midnight with the full moon overhead and the breeze coming off the water, the warm breeze, and I've got a drink in my hand, uh, and I'm just relaxing, and the wind, the
Yeah.
breeze is taking over, and you know, so, it starts off with Minuano 6/8, very ethereal synth passages, repetitive piano passage at the start, dreamlike vocals, uh, vocal phrasing, different time signature changes. It's just it keeps you going. Just this whole album has a pulsating feeling to it that keeps it just
Yeah.
going forward, right?
Right.
Um, so it may secretly begin. Shimmering synth passages on this track, great guitar tone, nice subdued piano on this track. Last Train Home, my God, like that's it. Tag me out now. I'm done. Like I'm done.
Yep.
I am bloody. I'm done. Like call me done for dinner. I'm like great rhythm on this track, good use of brushes on the drums, beautiful guitar. Um, it's just talk, great rhythm. There's a piano part that comes in that kind of underpins the rhythm of the track. Beautiful piano solo, has a playfulness on this track that which is an element that is evident in all of his compositions. I'm sorry, it is. To me, it is. Third
Yeah.
Wind is
Yeah.
another uh fast tempo track, great use of timbalas on the track, great bass, nice extended guitar solo that comes in and at 5/11 it changes tempo because there's the three sort of moods, three tempos, three different sections, three different moods, right? But
Yeah.
it's just a fantastic piece of work. And um, yeah, I mean, in her family, that there's also two other tracks, Distance and In Her Family. Again, fantastic album closer for Still I've Talking.
Yeah.
In Her Family, simple piano melody, uh, builds in breadth and scope for the track, and beautiful subtle guitar that comes in, just amazing, just amazing. It's the perfect song to fall asleep to at the end of the day, like when you go to bed at night. You put this
Hmm.
on, the house could be on fire, you wouldn't care because you're just listening to this track, and it just takes you away, right?
Right.
Um, Beautiful album. That's my number two.
That's a great choice. And yeah, the closers, Distance and Inner Family are very they're 180 degrees from the tune before, which Third Wind, you get your first wind, your second, and your third, and you're just, the whole thing is just about moving, 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 and keeping
Yeah,
energy going. And it's a great counterpoint. And you're right. Um, Pat knows how to arrange a record. From
yeah,
the very cinematic beginning of Minuano 6/8 to a very cinematic kind of but simple understated close of the final track, with this gentle twinkling little melodic line ends
yeah,
with just this little bling. I mean,
yeah,
it's just, oh, it's gorgeous, absolutely stunning.
yeah, yeah,
um, one other thing I'll say about it, and I talked about this last time, and I think we're in the same boat where neither of us really understand music and can hear an A from a D or a sharp from a
and that's
flat, or,
sharp.
or
Yeah,
things like that. There's another reaction video out there by the Daily Doug. Doug Helvig is his name, and his reaction video to Minuano 6/8 is a brilliant deconstruction of how Pat and Lyle do chord changes
yeah,
and flats and just different compositional tricks that I know nothing about. To me, it all just sounds great. But for him, his mind is blowing is like how mechanically they go from part to part to part. So he's appreciating it like the way an auto mechanic would appreciate, a Maserati.
yeah,
So Pat can be appreciated at the level. It's one of the things I really enjoy about it. He can be appreciated at the level of just people who just love listening to music, and
yeah,
appreciated at the level of people who just understand the nuts and bolts of mechanics and of how it's put together. I mean, there were
yeah,
several times in that video where he's just like, I'm really kind of stunned and can't believe this. So,
yeah. And he's a classical composer.
yeah,
So, I mean, he's looking at it when he's looking at a track, when he deconstructs something, he is looking at it from the bare bones outward. Do you know what I mean? Like from the inside out. and he
Yeah.
can do that. So yeah, I got to check that out actually. Um, I got to check that video
And
out.
it's free. It's free. It's on YouTube. So you don't have
That's
to, I'm not
exactly
making you
right.
spend money.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
However, I'm going to make you spend money on my number one.
Go for it.
My number one is the first Pat Metheny album that I purchased with my own hard-earned cash as a freshman in college. It's the double live album Travels. Um, it's just so special. So it's the same. It's recorded on the Off Ramp tour. Um, double album. Half of the album is brand new tunes. So it's not just recreating stuff in the studio. It's stuff that they were experimenting with live on the fly. Not to say that they're just wholly improv. I mean, they're composed pieces, but they're road testing them, and they just thought that the pieces were outstanding enough. It's like, yeah, we want to put it on an album. That's how good they are. So it's not these half-cocked things. They're fully baked, fully formed cinematic pieces.
Yeah.
And again, it's Pat, Lyle, Steve Rodby on bass. Just an aside, Steve Rodby is a bass master. I mean, he's so understated, but he's always in the pocket. He's always putting the right things in there. It's flashy when it needs to be, but most of all, he's the glue that holds the whole foundation together. So
Yeah.
Robbie is like the unsung hero of the Pat Metheny group to me. He's just an astounding player. Um, Danny Gottlieb on drums, Nana Vasconcelos on percussion and vocals, and it's just fantastic. The definitive version of "Are You Going with Me" is on there.
Mhm.
Phase Dance. There's a version of As Falls Wichita on that album. Um, the the version of San Lorenzo is much like, Are You Going With Me? It's the gold standard.
Mhm.
It's just Lyle's, you take the wonder of Lyle's solo from the original studio recording and just, double the awesomeness of it. Just
Okay.
the texture, the touch, the approach, just the gentleness with the way he can approach it, or and or the forcefulness.
Mhm.
It's just got this great classical slash Keith Jarrett slash gospely kind of feeling to it, the way it
Mhm.
runs and flows. The whole It gets me all excited, Armando. That it's just a
I can
fantastic
tell.
record.
I can tell.
It's a solid number one. Yeah, Travels, my number one Pat Metheny pick. It wasn't even a contest. It's
Yeah.
like I knew I'm just going to start at number one and just fill in the rest as I go.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can understand that. I was looking for a copy of Travels and I couldn't on Amazon, and you can't get it directly through Amazon.ca anymore. You have to go through a secondary seller, and the cheapest that I found it for was like $40,
Mm,
right? So, you know, I mean, do what you want, guys. I mean, if you want to get it, it's fantastic. Um,
yep. If you got to stream it until you can hold it in your hot little hands,
yeah,
stream it.
there you go. There you go. My number one, ladies and gentlemen, Secret Story.
Yep.
There we go. Drum roll, please. Secret Story, released to Geffen July of 1992. I was made aware of this album a couple of years back, and I listened to it and I was blown away. Clocks in at a mammoth 76 minutes plus, 14 tracks on the album. This is listed as, in term when you read it online, it's listed as Latin jazz, world music, and yeah, it is.
And then some.
And then some. No, I mean, that's just it. I mean, like we said, I've said before, in terms of Frank Zappa, there's, rock, pop, country, there's blues, and then there's Zappa. Well, there's jazz, Latin jazz, and uh world music, and then there's Metheny. There's Pat Metheny. He's an entity unknown to himself. The album itself, the way I can describe it is definite Latin flavor to it,
Mhm.
dripping, dripping, drenched in Latin references and influences. 14 tracks on the album. There's a version of it that came out that has 19 tracks. Uh, I get the 14 track version myself, the original. The only way I can describe it for me is like I've said before, it's like it's it's like the start of the day. You start your day. You're going to work wherever you're going. You have a day planned ahead of you. You wake up in the morning. The sun is shining. There's a nice warm breeze coming in with the window open. You can smell your neighbor cutting the grass. You're right on the air. You know, you get in the car. You start your car. You start driving. Every track is a different avenue. Every
Yep.
track is a different experience. Okay, starts off with Above the Treetops. Okay. Beautiful start to the album. Amazing. You know, beautiful synth passages, fantastic vocals, subtle percussion on it, beautiful acoustic guitar. There's Facing West, another good track on the album, with pulsating rhythm, beautiful melody, and it sort of grows in breadth and scope as the track goes along. Finding and Believing, the 10-minute track. Okay.
Yeah.
The what I call as the heart of the album. Okay. The to me has a funky intro, and that's where the adventure begins on the track, right? Just amazing. Other tracks of note are, Sunlight, Cathedral in a Suitcase, Antonia, Rain River, The Longest Summer, Always and Forever, not to be confused with the Luther Vandross version. See the World, because to me, even just the name of that track, this album is expansive.
Yeah.
This album to me, it means everything is possible. There are no limits. You're off on an adventure, and you don't mind where you're going to end up because you're going to be all the better for it,
Hmm.
right? Um, Other songs of note, uh, after See the World, The Truth Will Always Be, just beautiful. Tell Her You Saw Me,
Yeah.
and Not to Be Forgotten. Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful conclusion.
It's just breathtaking. It is amazing. Guys, if you're not used to jazz mixed with Latin influences, etc., just open your mind to the possibility of something different,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know?
The when I think about this album, the adjective cinematic comes to mind, especially towards the end. I mean,
Yeah,
Pat just has a way of really painting a picture musically, and this album is all over the place in a good way. I mean, just with the initial tune, which is I forget where the the children's vocal line is lifted from. I think it's like South Korean or Malaysian. It's
yeah,
something like that. And forgive me for not being specific, but
it's fine.
that kind of timbre to the weird kind of hiccupy vocals that are going on in Finding and Believing, the big brass section in See the World,
Yeah,
the you know beautiful harmonica, Toots Thielmann is in there on one of the tracks.
yeah,
The track where Antonia, where Pat's got his accordion patch going in on his synclavier. I mean, it's yeah, it is a fantastic record. It's really really diverse. Like Armando, you were saying, it's like every tune is a trip down a different street.
very much so. Very much so.
That's
And
a great number one, man.
yeah, yeah. Well, you knew what it was going to be. I mean, I saw the look on your face when we were talking about before we started taping. You knew what it was going to be. So,
I actually forgot. I thought it was going to be Still Life Talking, but then as we
oh,
got
okay.
going, I'm like, wait a minute, it's not that. It's going to be Secret Story. So
Okay. Okay. No, no, no. I mean,
you
yeah,
got me.
it's fantastic. It is a fantastic album. And when I first was trying to find it, it was going for like $100,
What?
$100. And then it was down to 50. And then I found it for 14 on Amazon. And when I found it for 14, I'm like, I snapped it up. I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm getting it. And that's it.
Do it.
I grabbed it. And it's a fantastic album. It encompasses everything that you want in an album. It gives you beautiful melody, uh, pulsating rhythms, an overall adventure.
Yeah.
And you'll be all the better for listening to it. And again, you can stream all these albums on YouTube. Every album that we've talked about, and don't take our word for it. Listen to it first, and then
Yeah. Test drive it.
give it a test drive. If you don't like it, you don't like it, but at least you've listened to it. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? So, ladies and gentlemen, we are down to our honorable mentions.
We
So
are. I guess that's to me, huh? My honorable
there
mention,
you
and this
go.
is I went back and forth with, is this my honorable mention? Is this my number 10? So my honorable mention is from 2000. It's the Trio Live record, which is a double album, 2 hours. It's the trio of Pat, Larry Grenadier, and Bill Stewart. Um, uh, First, a word about Larry Grenadier. Much like Steve Rodby, he is an anchor. Larry
Okay.
Grenadier's tone, choice of notes, choice of how to play the notes, he's flawless. I mean, really, he's that good of a bass player. He's been the regular bass player with Brad Meldau's trio for a couple of decades now.
Okay.
Um, and so he's he's got it. So Larry, you may be like, who? Larry, no, Larry Grenadier is a force to be reckoned with on bass. Always tasteful, always. So 13 tracks on this record. Um, 8 of them are kind of restatements of old PM tunes or standards.
Okay.
Um, there's 2 live versions of tracks that were originally on Trio 9900. But there's 3 brand new tracks that sort of conclude the album. And
Mhm.
again, this kind of speaks to, um, you know, what you say to someone who thinks that Pat is a smooth jazz guy. Um, the first of the 3 is a ballad, um, standard, deeply composed, well performed Pat Metheny ballad. You just
Mhm.
come to expect, all right, he can just knock this beautiful stuff off in his sleep, and it seems like he does. Um, the last 2, uh, Faith Healer is the longer of the 2, and that again is like a avant-garde thrash jazz track that um, is really unlike anything else in Pat's catalog. And again, he's pulling this off live, and it's got these fast running atonal sections, and then these sections that are again very, very cinematic, very, like he's exploring the melodic bass sections of the synclavier on setting these moods. It's just fantastic, but it's a shock after the tune that precedes it, which I think is Night Turns into Today. I don't have as extensive notes at the ready as you do, sir. Um, the last tune, which I believe is called Counting Texas, is another kind of, I'll just call it a tweaky kind of tune with this weird tuning on it. I think he's playing a fretless guitar, and it's just got this kind of twangy Texas feel to it, but it's another up tempo, bop smasher. Um, so again, it's a fantastic record. One of the only 2 trio albums I have in my whole list here. Um, but again, highly recommended. Um, just to hear Pat really stretch out in that trio format, where not only he but the bassist and the drummer get a chance to stretch. You hear their interplay together. Um, it's just fantastic. There's a version of Giant Steps on the album, a very calm down version of Giant Steps. So, you might call Coltrane's version caffeinated. This is very much a decaf version, but it's still giant steps.
Okay.
And it's just, it's a fantastic record. Again, I vacillated. Is this number 10? Is it an honorable mention? Even as an honorable mention, it is well worth your time.
Hmm. No, it's good. That's a good, I mean, with what you were just saying about, well, let me rephrase that. I think the mark of a good musician is letting others into your um into your composition and sort of give you their take on what you're like on what they hear when
Mhm.
they like when they even in a recording studio when they read the notes on a sheet. Okay, that may be what's written down, but this is how I feel. This is what I
Yes.
imagine playing it. So that is what he allows these musicians to do. Whatever incarnation there is of the Pat Metheny group, he lets the musician lend or give their artistry to the composition and give their
Yep.
take on things.
Absolutely. And, Pat has an ear for making sure that he also picks the right person for what he wants out of a combo. I mean, to like you and I, we may not immediately know the difference between how Jack DeJohnette plays the drums and Antonio Sanchez, but
Yeah,
Pat knows that.
yeah,
And so, if he wants something that's a bit more earthy and grounded, he's going to pick DeJohnette. But if you want something that's got a little bit more kind of flair and unpredictability, he's probably going to pick Sanchez. And
yeah.
I'm, I may be totally wrong. Pat, if you're watching this and I'm wrong, just tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, Pat
So
Metheny's watching this.
absolutely,
Yeah, of
absolutely.
course, of course. No, but I get exactly what you're saying, and I agree with you. You know, that's a good choice. Okay, guys, my honorable mention is Orchestrion,
Okay.
released January 26th, 2010, again through Nonesuch, I believe. Um, yeah, I believe this was through Nonesuch. Five tracks on the album. This was sort of, I mean, and Jim can also, I explain it better. You have Pat Metheny performing on the album on his own, doing all the instrumentation. I first heard of this album a couple of years back, and I've tried to listen to it at least a couple of times. But for some reason, I could not really get into it. But when you were explaining it to me, and I'll let you explain some more, I found it at a good deal, and it's on its way to me. I'm, surprised if it isn't already sitting out there in the dining room on the table for me, because the package did arrive today. Um, but what I like about this album in terms of the compositions, there's two lengthier compositions, the title track and Entry Point, which clock in at 15 minutes or 16 minutes and 10 minutes and change each, respectively. There's five tracks. There's Orchestrion, Entry Point, Expansion, Soul Search, and Spirit of the Air. Uh, what I like about this album is this is Metheny taking chances again,
Yeah.
right? Going into uncharted territory, okay?
Yeah.
Because he basically has this, what would you call it, Jim? In
Well,
terms of what it is.
Pat calls it his mad scientist mode.
Yes,
And what he's doing with it is that he's using the guitar to trigger other instruments.
yes,
So by using, solenoids and robotics and different things, he's playing the melodic line, but by how he's got it set up and triggered through his foot pedals or something else, it's actually a marimba playing that melodic line. And what
mhm,
he's doing throughout the album is that he's got some things pre-programmed, he's got some things that he's playing live, he's got loops that he's creating.
yes,
And again, it's, he's on the guitar the whole time, but you hear piano, glockenspiel, cymbals, things that sound like blown bottles,
yes,
that sound. Um, I don't think there's any woodwinds on it. He probably did that was the
No,
closest he could come to woodwinds.
no,
But
I don't
yeah, he's
believe so.
using his guitar to kind of trigger other guitars to do their thing and bass. Um, the the Orchestrion album is a pretty amazing thing, and the DVD that kind of goes along with it, it's available for separate purchase, mind you. But
Yes.
there's two or three pieces, sorry, there's two pieces on there that are improvisations, and that's where you really that's for me where I saw the promise and the expansiveness of the orchestrion concept really just balloon to life,
Yeah.
because you can see him build things and loop things and trigger things, and he's jamming on one thing and then he'll step on a foot pedal and everything will stop except like one percussion thing that keeps running. So literally he's got the 17 members of his band in his head the whole time, and he knows how to make them stop on a dime, where to pick things up. I mean, it's
Yeah.
mind-boggling how he puts it together.
Yeah. And I said in the previous episode about albums that sound mechanical and that there's no the human element is missing from those recordings because it's programmed with programmed drums and keyboards. From what I've heard so far of Orchestrion, I take that back because it does not sound like, yes, it is one person triggering signals and what have you, and patterns and things, but it doesn't sound like that to me. Like it sounds like, it is a person on the drums doing a drum fill or doing a drum pattern. It is a person on, say, upright bass, or do you know what I mean? Like it
Right.
does have that human element to it. It does sound like that there is the human element incorporated into the album. And the reason why it's an honorable mention, guys, is because I really don't know that much about the album, but I was intrigued enough from what I heard that I wanted to put it on the list as an honorable mention. So
There you go.
sue me if you want, but that's the way it is,
No,
right?
no,
That's
no
our,
suing.
there you
One,
go.
one other thing, one other thing to comment about that is that,
Sure.
technically a lot of the idea from orchestrion kind of springs from stuff that Pat absorbed when he was a kid. You take the concept of a player piano where
Yeah,
everything is on a roll, and when the piano plays, it's all the same attack. It's just different notes played with the same kind of force and the same kind of feel throughout.
yeah,
However, with the solenoids that Pat was able to kind of discover and figure out how to apply in this way, you're actually able to get feel out of it. So instead of going, bum 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 bum, it's bum bum bum. I
yeah,
mean, there's that sort of distinction that he's able to get from it. So it really emulates as close as possible a human feel and attack on these instruments,
yeah.
as opposed to just, all the way
So,
through.
so the subtle touches are there as a,
Yeah,
to give it more depth and dimension, as opposed to one single rhythm going all the way through the track, like from A to B, like all the way through for like 10 minutes.
exactly.
There are those subtle touches that come in that add depth and scope to the piece overall, right? I mean,
Absolutely. You took my raw material and you made it blossom, Armando. You nailed it.
oh, Jim, yes, I'll send you another check. Yes, thank you for the compliment. Thank you for the compliment. So there you go, guys. Our
That's
10,
19 different albums. But with our honorable mentions, we talked about 19 different Pat albums.
there you go. There you go, guys. Yeah, 19 albums. So, but well, between us, 10 each plus an honorable mention. So that's quite the list. So
Yeah.
please, you have all these albums to go check out. You can check them out on YouTube. Okay. And again, we're not experts. Okay. I
No,
I have never claimed to be an expert on music in terms of compositions between a 3/4 time signature and a 2/4 time signature. I'm just coming here to tell you guys what my opinions are about what I like about music. And you know what? Check them out for yourself. Please stream them on YouTube. All these albums are available. And whatever you like, by all means. go buy them, right? You can get them on Discogs, you can get them on Amazon, you can go on eBay, and hopefully you'll find something brand new that you never knew about before. Like there are a bunch of albums from Pat Metheny I never knew about. All right. I want to thank
There we
Jim
go.
Bricker for joining me on this fantastic episode. And we will be back with at some point in the near future with our top 10 Frank Zappa albums. That's going to be a hell of a list. Uh,
Ugh.
I've got
Yeah.
my list. I've got my list ready to go. Um, and how's your list coming along for Frank Zappa?
I think I've got 11 and I need to, rework it. And I may need to challenge some of my assumptions that I have going into it.
Yeah.
So I'm not ready yet, sir, but I'm working on it.
There you go. There you go. No, my list is ready to go. So, and guys, we have other new episodes coming up too. At some point, Jim, Bill Schuster, and I are going to be doing a new music discovery discussion on the Tea Party. Bill has been quite busy with obligations and work and family obligations, so we will get that episode done for you. And Bill and I are going to be doing an episode on another new music discovery episode on Concrete Blonde. Bill's a major fan. I know some stuff. I have one album from Concrete Blonde. I don't have the entire catalog, but so Bill's going to pilot that episode all the way through, and we're going to tackle it the same way that we did with George Jackson, where we're going to do two episodes, sorry, two albums per episode. All right. And again, hopefully you discover something new. So guys, that's it for now. Please look after yourselves and one another. Please click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content that I've got coming up. There are other new episodes coming up on the horizon. And we want to thank you guys for tuning in because we
Thank
do
you.
appreciate your feedback and your comments, not your criticisms all the time. But I mean, there you go. I mean, everyone has an opinion. So
Exactly.
for Jim Bricker, I am Armando Venditti signing off. Wishing you guys a good night. Please look after yourselves and one another, and we'll see you soon with another episode. Bye for now.